Hello, and welcome to the Work for Change podcast. My name is Jean.
I am John.
And we are very thankful that you are listening, whatever platform that is, whether it be YouTube, whether it be iTunes, whether it be Stitcher, because we're on all of them.
Yeah.
And we have a good time on every single platform.
Yeah.
As we do. We just want to say thank you for an awesome first month of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people get really weird when it comes to numbers and downloads and whatever, but we're going to be open. We're always going to be open about it. And on our first month of the podcast, we got over 10,000 downloads, which that's like a stream. Like you don't actually have to download for us to get it. That just helps.
10,000 listens.
Yeah, 10,000 listens, and then that's not even including the YouTube videos. Including YouTube, we were closer to 20,000. So we just want to say to all you guys watching, who are listening, who are sharing, who are spreading the news, thank you so much. It really, really means so much to us.
And again, if you guys do want to help us out, if you want to give us ratings anywhere you're listening, iTunes, Stitcher, I don't know if Stitcher has them, but anywhere that you're listening, if you want to give us a rating, if you're on YouTube, you want to give us a thumbs up, it's appreciated. And so today's episode number 6.
Episode number 6 is with Erik the Electrician. and
we talk about how to fix electrical issues that you might be having.
Yep, so we hope you enjoy it. It's with a YouTuber by the name of Erik the Electric. Mm-hmm. It's got a crazy story. You can say it's electrifying if you want.
And now everyone stopped listening to the podcast.
Crazy story dealing with anorexia, dealing with actually obesity, anorexia, and just living a healthy, balanced life now while doing insane, crazy, multiple 1,000-calorie challenges.
He's done 100,000 calorie challenge before.
Yeah. So
Erik, it was a really, really, really good time interviewing him, and I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this one. He's very open and honest about a lot of things, and I think that a lot of people that might follow him on YouTube that don't really know his story are going to be very surprised as to what he's been through. And it's a really cool story, and it's really, honestly, it inspired me listening to him, and it fired me up. So I think it'll be a great one.
Yeah, and I think it's a couple takeaways. What I'm thinking of right now talking about it is, one, the outside is just a shell for most people. And if you try to compare who you are to the shell that other people are portraying, you can end up getting into some pretty hard stuff, right? Mm-hmm. You recognizing that people are so much deeper than what they present and what is presented. And then just another thing about nice always wins.
Yeah.
It always wins. Being angry, being mean in the short term is flashy and fun. But helping people, when other people and helping them is your goal, it always wins.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, on top of that, you never know what someone's going through. So don't assume that you do. Even if they look super fit and super healthy, you don't know how they got there. And like you were saying, just be kind. And people have journeys to where they got. This is Erik's. We got a friend here today.
We got a friend.
Mr. Erik the Electric.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. Actually, I heard there was free bagels and coffee, so that's actually why I'm here.
Oh yeah, that's
after. Don't worry.
We definitely.
Okay.
That's definitely after.
We definitely have those for you. Those will be coming later. So
okay, perfect.
One question that John actually asked me, and I did not have an answer for, so I want to start this podcast.
Hold on. Let it be clear. You said, "Do you have questions prepared?" I said yes, and now you're about to ask it as if it's something that you prepared.
I said it was your question.
Okay. You said I asked you as just out of the blue, not like I planned on doing this. So yes, please go ahead and ask this question.
As you can tell, I'm the main leader of the podcast, so
yeah.
I ask the questions here. So Erik the Electric. Is there any story behind why it's Erik the Electric?
I get asked this question a lot, and I should have a really cool story for this.
I was going to tell John, I was like, I bet it's just because it's an E.
Yeah, kind of. But no, I played guitar in high school, and so I am a huge electric guitar geek, and so that's kind of why.
That's a story.
Yeah, that's a story. That makes sense.
Kind of. I've been on a few podcasts, and they're like, dude, you really should have a better story. You should just make something up. I'm like, nah, that's just the way it is.
So just upon hearing your name, without having any context of who you are, I hear Erik the Electric. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be some like burly dude, jeans, like kind of showing his plumber crack and everything. You know, like an electrician, like plumber.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I was
okay.
confused. I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know
burly,
where you're
not
going.
like
That's not
like,
really my style.
Yeah. No. But I just think electrician, and I'm just like, okay, Erik the Electrician is on
next year's Halloween costume.
Yeah, not really my style. I'm glad you let me know that I could change some things, but no, it's definitely not the
Just
way.
next week, it's no longer Erik the Electric. He just goes by his name.
Erik the Electrician, maybe.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely not me.
All right, so let's actually get into the meat and potatoes. So, as I'm sure people that follow your story know, you have a crazy transformation story, but then there's so many levels to it, and it's one of those things that I've been watching the videos. Obviously, I knew your story before, but then I went back like earlier today and yesterday and rewatched all of the the anorexia stories and stuff like that, and the fact that you went from that to where you are now, doing like food challenges, like eating 100,000 calories, just like crazy stuff that most people can't even fathom, is unbelievable. And like the journey that you went on to get to where you are now is incredible. So
Thank you, I appreciate it.
yeah, of course, man. And I think that it really is incredibly inspiring. Like I was watching the videos that you made from you. They're like 3 years old, so I'm sure there's even more to tell
those.
now.
Yeah.
And so if you can kind of just start from, I know that the start of it seems that you were just kind of an overweight kid, right? And then if you could just
I mean, I was actually, we could go into a lot about all that, but technically when I was at my heaviest, my doctor, I'll never forget. It's like you have those moments where you'll always remember. I'll never forget. I was in the doctor's office and I had my dad actually took me in for just a regular checkup, and the doctor pulled us aside and she was like, technically he's obese. And so just hearing that word,
how old were you at this
I
time?
was 15.
Wow.
And so she points to this chart on the wall that has the BMI on it. And, we could go into a huge debate about that. I have my own thoughts and beliefs about that. But that sent like chills down my spine at such a young age. And my dad looked at me and he was just somebody that I had never, ever had that type of conversation with. It was just, I was that semi-active kid that was still kind of sedentary and all that. And so that opened up a huge thing with me, and internally I was just basically called obese by a doctor. And so from that point forward, I was about 230 pounds when that had all happened. I'm 5'8". I'm 5'9" now. I was 5'8" back then. So I was a pretty husky kid. I was, I was used to being made fun of. I was used to being bullied for my weight. And that had all stemmed back from earlier when my parents got divorced when I was 7. And so food was always something that I used as a way to, I guess, just numb out from the world. I was a kid that liked to play a popular game called World of Warcraft. So I would sit, like, if you seen the South Park episode where
yes,
that was me. Like
you were Cartman?
Right, I was Cartman. I would sit there for literally 12, 16 hours a day, and I would do this. And food was something that I would use in gaming and all that to just kind of just not, I guess, deal with the issues that I needed to deal with, which is talking to my parents and dealing with a lot of the bullying that I faced and everything. And so those were two big things with me. And so that carried up into the time of my life where I went into high school. And so I went from a very I went to a private school and I had about 20 kids in my class, and so I went to live with my dad after the divorce and everything. He got custody, and so I went from a class of 25 kids to a high school full of 2,000. I think there was like over 2,000 kids in that. So going from that sheltered environment into that was just like the biggest eye opener for me. And so the huge thing with me when I went into that environment was seeing all these kids, and the body image became the main focus. And so I also dealt with, I was a very poor student, and all that was huge. And my dad was harping on my grades and my weight after that doctor's appointment visit. And so I realized that point was I needed a change and something needed to happen. And so I came to my dad and I told him I had a very, very hard time focusing. And he took me to a psychologist, and I got put on a drug called Concerta. It's basically timed release Adderall. And so I'll never forget being put on that because I was able to it felt like I was I was operating at like a 3 just day to day. Like I'd wake up and go to Starbucks with my dad. I'd get like a huge actually I got 2 breakfast sandwiches, which is like and it was terrible in and of itself. Then I get like a caramel frappuccino. It's like you have like those things you used to do. But that was like a typical breakfast for me, and I'd have pizza for lunch, and I'd have like just a massive that was a normal thing for me. Like looking back on that now, I can't believe that that was my normal diet. That was what it was, and so I started taking this medication, and I can remember just I would wake up and it was like I would just go from that normal 3 straight to like a 15. Everything I was able to focus. I was able to exercise. I was able to do all the things that I really never thought I could do, and my grades got better. I lost weight. All these things just that I wanted to happen, they were finally happening. And so then I started restricting my food a lot. And this was right around the time I turned 16. And I remember I lost weight. I lost about 20 pounds right off the bat because you start restricting carbs, you drop a lot of water. I remember like the week that I started like my official diet, I lost like 11 pounds. And I was like, "Yes." And then like looking back on it now, it's just water weight because you cut out all of your carbs and it's just water and glycogen. And then but I felt so much pride down deep inside, and I remember that day and just wanting to just see more and more and more, and you get this gratification from seeing the number on the scale just get lower and lower, and so that carried on for a good 6 months, and I can remember just going to school and just like every single day it was like, man, what are the comments going to be like today from people? Because people were used to I was just getting just not just from my dad, but kids at school that had never talked to me before. I was like, this is great. I feel so much better, and I'm losing weight, and people are noticing it. But what I wasn't like doing was actually like digging deeper within myself. Like, was I actually feeling better about myself, or was it just the comments that I was getting? And I started noticing a lot of just anxiety whenever I would like sit down for dinner with my family, and it wasn't really making sense to me because I had never felt something like that before. And it was actually funny too because today I was thinking about like coming on the podcast today and all these different times that I'd felt different anxiety around food. And I'll never forget my 16th birthday. My parents actually took me out, and I had spent the entire day just thinking about what it was going to be at the dinner, like what I was going to have to eat and everything. Um, and so I sat down at this Mexican restaurant. It's called Miguel's. I don't know if you've ever been.
Oh yeah.
And they
White
have
sauce is
yeah.
great
Oh,
there.
it's fantastic.
I actually just had Miguel's leftovers. Like
Oh, nice.
an
Oh,
hour ago.
leftovers?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No, but so we sat down and we're celebrating my 16th birthday, and they bring out this huge, like, it wasn't that big. I mean, it was meant for like 2, 3 people. But this piece of cake, and I remember just like looking at it and just feeling so scared, and I was confused because I was like scared, but it's of food, and you have this anxiety and paranoia, and everyone's looking at me like, why aren't you eating it? And so I took a few bites, and took a few bites. I mean, it was a few hundred calories. And I got home that night in my room. I shut the door. It was my 16th birthday too. And so I shut the door, and I'm sitting in the darkness, and I just remember clenching my fists and just having so much anger towards my family. Like, why would they make me eat that? Like, and I started crying. And that night, I'll remember for the rest of my life because I was crying over a piece of cake, and that's when I realized that this was a huge issue with like this is a huge problem within me. And I had never heard about guys getting eating disorders. I always thought it was just a female thing. And I told my dad that like I something's up, and he's like, buddy, you're fine. Like it's just I mean, it could have just been an off day for you. And then a few weeks later, it could have been a few months later. It's still like my memory is still a little bit jogged.
Yeah, it was
but,
a while ago.
but my stepmom actually had a party at the house, and a few of her friends came. And by now, I had probably lost about 50 pounds. Like you could definitely see that I was a lot thinner. And they actually told her, like, he doesn't look healthy at all. You need to take him to see somebody. So we went back to that same doctor that I went to when she had called me obese. And she saw me go from, like a new person. And so we go back and she goes, okay, you need to see an eating disorder therapist. And I was like, eating disorder? Like, that's crazy,
No,
you
you
know?
told me to do
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so and then I was just upset. And so we go in and see this lady, and she goes, yep, he has anorexia, based on I was about 145 pounds, 150 pounds.
At this time, what was like a normal day of eating for you?
By then I had found out intermittent fasting. And
Okay.
so I would, what I would do is I would not eat for, I wake up, go to school, I get coffee with my dad, a black coffee, and then I just basically fast until I'd get home from school. And so a big thing in my household is that, we'd all bond around food. We'd all bond around dinner. So that would be like the main point that everyone would talk about your day. And I would basically put on a show for all my parents. And so
Wow.
I had found out all about calories, macronutrients, everything, micronutrients, everything. And, my family wasn't like the worst when it came to food. It wasn't like, fried chicken every night and all that. We would do a wide variety of stuff, but I would overdo it on, vegetables. But intermittent fasting was the first thing that I found. And so I fell into more of an orthorexic mindset. And so I would only be eating mountains of vegetables with some chicken. And that would be like my dinner. And I'd have like protein ice cream as a 16-year-old kid for dessert. And it's like, all these things I would do and see them as normal, but they weren't normal. They were completely abnormal. And so I went into this therapist, and she diagnosed me, and there was a lot of just different mixed feelings going around my family at that point, because my dad was somebody that didn't even know that guys could get it either. And so I felt, from there on, I was just that was my sophomore year of high school. And so sophomore year to senior year is right now, like, to me, just because of how things went, is such like a blur. It's usually like the good times in high school. And now it's more of times that I try to forget,
When you first heard, right, the therapist say that you have anorexia, and then so your dad was your dad with you?
Yeah.
So did he even believe it? Like, do you think that at that time he was like, okay, my son has an issue, we need to fix it, or do you think he was just almost kind of like, I don't know if I believe that as well?
My dad didn't. I don't think my dad wanted to believe it. And so it was more like, looking back on it now, like, I remember like the conversations I'd have with him, and I'd be like, Dad, I feel like I'm fat today. Like, I feel like I just feel gross, and I want to have abs and all these things, and he would just look at me and be like, do some sit-ups. That's my, like, I love my dad, but that's his response. And so that's totally not helpful at all to any sort of situation like that. But it's hard for the average person to understand that.
Yeah, and you were, from looking at like your videos, you kind of have video documented the whole thing, right?
Yeah. So from that moment of time, up until college, to being a freshman, sophomore in college, I've gone through, like, peaks and troughs of, being in a better place with my eating disorder. But yeah, I started doing YouTube videos, and I was a heavy guy. I played guitar. So, like, guitar and being the funny guy, were the two things that, like, I had in my life. If someone made
like
fun
your
of me,
identity.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If someone made fun of me for my weight, I could just be like, yeah, it's cool because I'm fat.
Yeah, exactly.
So I started doing guitar videos, and I'd like put them up on Facebook, and stuff, and I'd be like, I'd be friends with all the the cute girls in my high school. Hopefully they watched it, And so
Did you watch me shred for 20 minutes? No. What the heck?
And it wasn't even good either, I just put it up, but I always found like a cool thing with YouTube. I was like, this is gonna be super cool if I can look back on this in 10 years or whatever and be like, man, that was me.
So you started making videos that were just based on like guitar.
Yeah, just guitar.
That's interesting.
I remember this other one too. I got I don't know if you guys ever skateboarded before, but like if you
like to skateboard.
I like to skateboard.
If you put they have these little like things you can put on the bottom of the deck, and when you do like a tail slide, it'll actually it'll shoot
I
sparks
remember
out.
those.
Yeah, and I was looking at it the other day. I'm like, that's so cool, and I filmed it with my friend, and I was just like, I was that cool skater kid, but also like the chubby chubby kid too, but I put that all on my YouTube channel and all that. And no one watched it. No one really cared except me. But I
Was
thought
that
it was
on
the
the
coolest
same
thing.
channel that you have now, or was it like
Oh, completely different.
Okay.
Completely different. But
so like video documenting your health process was just like second nature.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I was already filming this. I'm just gonna film this
Right.
as well.
Yeah. So after high school and everything, the thing I needed to do, according to like my dad, in order for me to be able to live in the dorms as a freshman with other kids, basically be on my own again, was to be able to go into I had to go into a program here in San Diego at UCSD. It's for eating disorders, and that was like the first actual like clinical treatment that I had to be in for 8 hours a day. They were feeding you everything. And I was actually, that was probably in all of the times of my eating disorders, one of the biggest times I've struggled, because I don't know if you've seen them, but they have like body media fits. They go on your arm and they count, the amount of steps that you take in a day, calories you burn.
Yeah.
I wore that every single day during that summer just to be able to, like I was, all control was taken from me because they fed me everything. I was probably getting in probably about like, I don't remember the exact number, but like 4,000 calories a day.
Oh, wow. So they were feeding you a good amount.
Yeah, they were. But I would wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning with this thing on my arm. I'd load like bricks in my backpack, and I'd walk around a park for 3 hours just to burn off calories, because they were watching how much I exercised. So I would and every single night I'd get home from treatment, put that thing in the computer and see how much I burned that day, and gauge how much I was taking in this place. And so that summer was like, I was doing what they wanted to, but I was actually regressing and beating my disease. And so
during those walks, were you kind of like, yeah, I'm in control, or was it kind of like, why am I doing this? Like, do you like, you have a lot of time to think, you know? So like, what's going on in your head? You've got a backpack of bricks to try to beat the system. Like, what's going on there?
I was mainly just coming up with ways to be able to fool them. And it was more like, when you're in such a powerless state like that, it's a way to get comfortable again, and that wasn't the way to get comfortable again, but I thought it was.
Yeah.
And so that was just with me was a way to be able to get to what I thought was a better place.
Yeah.
And
like a big part with most eating disorders is you want to feel like you can control.
Exactly.
So a lot of people that
when all control is taken away, it's like you go drastic.
He had to do something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
In his mind, it's I don't want to speak for you, but like in your mind, it's like, I need to do something, and this is the only thing I can do.
Right.
Because the whole point of that program is to take the power away from you, not in like a bad way, but so they can reinforce better habits. I'm assuming, right?
Totally. And there's a huge like series like of, well, I should say stage of denial that I was in. I mean, I walk into this place and there's kids that it's like the most heartbreaking thing to see a 12-year-old kid who's 80 pounds attached to a feeding tube, and they're literally afraid of like a bowl of strawberries. It's like food itself, and there's so many different types of eating disorders. It's not just, oh, Johnny's afraid to eat. It's there's so many stages to it. And so that was a learning process for me and my family as well. But that point was, getting through that. And during this entire time too, I did what actually I think enlarged my stomach capacity to this day, is I water loaded too. So what I would do before I'd be weighed every week, they'd weigh you once a week. And so, because when I was doing all, the burning of the calories, I wasn't gaining any weight because I was losing all the calories. And so I would chug 1.5 gallons of water before I weighed in. And so that was an absolutely excruciating process, because you do it and your stomach stretches so much. And so I'd get into this place and they'd weigh me on, it was a Friday, and so they weigh me, but I'd have to like sit there for 2 hours and hold that within me and wait till they weighed me, and I go to the bathroom. So what happened is I tried to do that on, the last week of the program, and they weighed me twice because they knew what I was doing. And so they weighed me at the very end and knew that everything that had happened. And surprisingly, I don't even know how I was able to, get to college and move into the dorms, but they said, go ahead, we want to see what's gonna happen for you. And I was actually, surprisingly, I was a lot better off by myself in the dorms. Like, I had control over my food and my calories and my exercise, and I was able to do fine for a good amount of time. And then unfortunately, about 1.5 years later, I got my own apartment, and then that's where all the video vlogs started. And I started recording everything, and I relapsed. And I had, I just wanted to see, maybe just like putting it on, the internet for other people to see, and if I was able to see that, then it would there would be the catalyst for some sort of change. But unfortunately, it wasn't. But I do have those now, and I think that's
Yeah.
what you're referring to, because
Yeah.
I put those in that YouTube video that
Yeah.
I posted 3 years ago, which is horribly done. But it is what it is. It's like what, 40 minutes or something like that. It's just me talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it gets the message out there,
Exactly.
and that was my point, and that's my goal for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and it's really powerful, especially hearing you talk about kind of going back of how it kind of progressed
Mhm.
for you, because I draw so many parallels to that.
Right.
When I lost my weight, it came from a good place to start, right? I needed to make a change to live. For me, it was like
Mhm.
to save my life. I was
Mhm.
360 at my heaviest, right?
It's
And
insane.
and for me, so it became there was always this issue with it, like at first it was literally killing me, and I didn't know how to control how much I was eating. I felt like I couldn't control
Mhm.
it. And then once I figured out I could control how much I ate and actually could kind of make sure I wasn't eating too much, it turned into how little can I eat
Exactly.
and still function.
Mhm.
And I'm really lucky that it never developed into anything, as far as like it went for you,
Mhm.
because it sounds obviously not fun at all to deal with,
Mhm.
but for me it was scary for a while. Like
Mhm.
I remember there was a good few months where every time I'd stand up, right, if I was sitting down and stand up, I was dizzy every single
I
time.
remember that too.
And like at the lowest for me, the amount of calories was probably about 1,200 to 700. And for me, I felt like the way that it works. So I think I struggled with like binge eating. I've never been like clinically diagnosed, but for me, it was in my mind, okay, I'm going to restrict. And in my mind, I thought if I eat 700 to 1,200, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And so I would always tell myself, if I can do something for one day, I can do it for a bunch of days, right?
Mhm.
Like, why can't I?
Mhm.
So then I do good, in quotes, for 3 days or 4 days, and then I would binge because I'm barely eating
Yep,
anything.
which is completely normal.
Yeah, and exactly. But at the time, I didn't know what binge eating was. I didn't even know that was a thing, right?
Mhm.
So I just felt like I wasn't dedicated. Like
Mhm.
that's what I was telling myself.
Yeah.
You're not dedicated.
Mhm.
And then so the next day after I would binge, eat almost nothing,
It's a
and
cycle.
then go exactly. And that's exactly what
Mhm.
happened. And luckily, I was able to get out of it because I decided I wanted to work out, and
Mhm.
like there was other things that kind of led
Mhm.
into me getting out of that. But it's crazy hearing your story. And like for me, I've always thought I was really close to something pretty catastrophic,
Mhm.
but hearing you explain it and just me, I like literally saw the steps that I
Mhm.
was taking, and I just got lucky that instead of maybe you took a left turn, I took a right at
Mhm.
one point,
Mhm.
one fork in the road.
Yeah,
And it's
I've heard you talk over the years, like since I met you in 2015, and it is really crazy to and I've gotten also, I want to say, thousands of messages and emails from young men that have similar backgrounds as us, and they've lost whatever 50, 60, 70, whatever number of pounds, and it's like that voice in your head that says if you deviate from this restrictive, overly
they're
restricted,
terrified.
yeah, and if you deviate, the moment you do, it's gonna be everything is going. You're gonna wake up the next day and be what you were 3 years,
exactly.
4 years ago. And so, to me, that's one of the big similarities that I saw in both of our stories. And it's something that the more I can talk about, the better I'm gonna feel, because I only unfortunately see it getting worse because of how society
Absolutely.
is. And
Well, in
what
the
you're
fitness industry
yeah,
too.
in the fitness industry too. It's a terrible thing. Like, less doing, like, for the thing you were talking about when you were saying, if I restricted to 700 to 1,200 calories, I feel better. But that's not balanced, and that's not healthy at all.
And it's not sustainable. It's
Exactly.
not like, and that's my favorite word in the world is sustainability.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I completely agree, especially with the fitness industry. There's obviously so many great things about it, and
Mhm.
I am so grateful that it exists.
Mhm.
But there are times where it just misses the mark,
Yeah.
and I don't think people realize. And this, I mean, I talk about it all the time, how dangerous it can be.
Mhm.
And it can be people that are well intentioned, and sadly, some people aren't well intentioned. Their intentions are to make money, and the damage that's being done to kids in high school, like
Mhm.
like where you were,
Mhm.
it's it's astronomical. And
Yeah.
that's why I was like so excited to get you on the podcast, because you come from a completely different side of like where, you know, obviously most of my friends are dealing with just generally just trying to lose weight. And I think that it's really important that your story is out there.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, you know, having me on and everything. I feel like that's a very crucial part of, you know, development that we miss, in that it's unfortunately it's going to take a lot of time before, you know, hopefully it's ingrained in more kids now. Is that balance is crucial. Like, you don't need to, and what breaks my heart, and I get this a lot, I get messages and DMs from wrestlers, kids that are guys and they're wrestling and they need to cut weight. And so what they're doing to these kids is horrible. But you know, they're like, I'm watching your videos, man, and one day I hope to be like that. And it's hard because it's like it's a sport, but then that becomes an obsession. For me, I'm a road cyclist, so I found the bike at, you know, that was actually a huge escape for me when I believe I was about 16 and a half. I might have been 17, but I hopped on my dad's bike and I was like, man, I feel like great right now. Like, this is fantastic. And that's always something that I've had to balance, being something that is a calorie burner. And that also made me realize that I also have an exercise addiction as well. I'm gonna have to manage that for the rest of my life. But then I think about, you know, how I was always told that more is better. You always need to exercise, and that's something that, you know, I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life. But that was always a huge thing with me too, is you know, how I have to manage all these fine details of my life. You know, now that I'm somebody that, like, my job is basically something that requires me to be extremely balanced outside of what I do, and it's gonna be that way for the rest of my life. And you know, the thing that I don't really get to talk about a lot is when I was in the, you know, these clinical settings for eating disorders. And they have these guidelines that they go on. You know, they don't talk about calories, they don't talk about macronutrients, they don't talk about anything. You couldn't even say the word sugar.
Wow.
It was or fat. You couldn't say anything like that in these treatment centers. I was in 2012 when I started making those video vlogs and everything. That was my worst relapse, and my family actually had an intervention on my dad, and then my dad came to me and said, "Look, if you don't go," it was actually one of the best treatment places in America.
This is when you moved out of the dorms and you were, like,
I was
living by
on my
yourself,
own
right?
again, and this was sophomore year in college, and so my dad was like, "You need to hop on a plane with me at 5 a.m. tomorrow, and we're gonna go to this place, which is one of the best treatment places in America." And I'm sitting there on this plane, and I'm like, man, what's the ratio gonna be this time? Because one of the most hard things for me as a guy back then, just to go into these places, and it's just all girls everywhere. It's just, I think there was like 28 women, and when you go from 28 to 1, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness,
Yeah.
man. It's like,
I would feel like this isn't for me.
yeah.
I would, right?
Yeah,
You-
yeah,
like,
it's
you
exactly
have
how
to
it
feel
feels. And it's like I walk into this place, and these girls are like, a lot of them I'm still in contact with, but they, you know, they have emotional breakdowns over like a salad because it had too much dressing on it. Or it's like, I'm not used to that. I'm more of like, okay, I'm just going to eat what I need to eat, and then just to please whoever, and then I'll deal with the feelings later.
Yeah.
And so that was a completely new environment for me. And so the thing, and I was in treatment with not just anorexics, I was in treatment with binge eaters as well. I was in treatment with a lot of different types of. That's the thing about eating disorders. There's so many different types of them. Bulimics.
And I'm sure you can have like a mixture of a
Yeah,
lot of them at the same
NOS,
time, right?
eating disorder not otherwise specified. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, there's a lot of different stuff that I saw. I saw people like put rocks in their shoes so they could weigh more. I saw people stick paper clips down their throat so they could throw stuff up. Like, it's, you know, there's crazy stuff that goes on. But the hard part for me getting into an actual hospital like setting was like, I didn't go home. I was there for 2 months, and it was weird too because I was given the prescribed treatment plan where you feed whoever you need to feed six times a day. It's whatever it is. But I was starving. I was literally starving. And so they go, Eric, you know, we're increasing your meal plan. I'd be like, okay. The average person would start breaking down, and they'd be like, why are you feeding me more food? I don't want it. But I'd be like, great. And I'd still be hungry. I think they were feeding me like 6,000 calories a day. And so,
Like, why do you think that is?
well, I was malnourished at that time, and so they're giving you more food so you can get weight stabilized, but they do it in gradual increments, because if you go from, of a diet, if you want to call it a diet of like 700 calories a day, the typical, at like anorexic person is probably eating that much, and you just shove them straight to 6,000 calories, they can.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, and people have died from that.
Yeah, I mean, like you hear this is off topic, but like the people that were in concentration camps,
Right.
like a lot
No,
of people
it's
died
Yeah.
because they just gave them food, and you're
Yeah.
like, eat
They're
as
like-
much
They
as you
eat-
want.
they ate themselves to
Literally
death, pretty
ate
much.
themselves.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask though, what was the lowest weight that you?
I was
ended up
112 pounds at my lowest. So I went from.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'9" now.
Jeez.
So, yeah, that was a really really rough patch, and but it was something that I had to go through and just experience for myself, because I realized that clinical type of like feeding of your meals and everything, and trying to be intuitive and mindful, that can work for a lot of people, but that's something that I had to actually figure out for myself. I had to figure out what worked for me. And so I'm glad that I went through that point, but I really needed the after years, which was 2013 to now, to kind of figure out what I should be doing and how I should manage my eating disorder.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense, because like just kind of like to bring it back to what I am a little bit more familiar with when it comes to just people trying to lose weight. I say, like, if you lose weight on one of these weight loss programs, that's fine, that's great.
What's sustainable though?
Yeah, exactly. So what are you going to do after you're done with that, right? And for you, it was like, what am I going to do after I'm done with this program? Because obviously you're not going to live there for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
And it becomes teaching yourself what's working for me. And like, I like to say, kind of turning yourself into a science experiment.
Right.
And like, okay, that didn't work, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work, let's try this. And so that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's being able to sustain and adhere to something is something that you have to continuously keep trying at. And that's, especially in my case, it's been so hard too, because like I have well, actually fluctuates, but 13 to 14 pound stomach capacity. So if you're going to try to tell me to sit here and eat 6 meals a day, I'm going to be like, okay, like how can I do that? Because that's, for me, that's like for the average person, that's like a huge amount of food.
Yeah.
But that intuition and that willingness to adhere to something like that is something that you're going to have to spend some time doing,
Yeah, I mean, it's like with your life, like it's a marathon, like a lot
Exactly.
of people are looking at these sprints and looking at these finish lines. I need this date, this calorie, this weight, this whatever. And they don't realize like your life is a marathon. And like oftentimes, like if you're sprinting in a marathon, you're screwing up the rest of the marathon. And a lot of people, they're sprinting because they're like, I need these quick results. I need these quick this. I need the quick. And they don't realize like the damage and the impact they're making later on in their life, later on in the year, let alone their whole life, like their year, the next month, the next 3 days. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you start a marathon sprinting, you will be in first place for the first mile, and that's about it.
Exactly.
That's
it.
my first bike race. You're just like, dang it, man, why did I do that?
Yeah, we have a phrase we like to use here at CrossFit Dark Side. It's SUBU, which is show up and blow up.
Show up, blow up.
You start the workout as hard and as fast as you can, and generally
Hang
you're
on.
the last person to finish.
That's gonna be me when I try CrossFit. That's
Yeah,
what-
exactly.
That's what I'm gonna
SUBU.
do.
But going back, so you eventually got out of the program, right? So what was that day like? And then, obviously the next months and years kind
So
of.
I got transferred to a halfway house, which is, I was actually going from, because a lot of people that deal with eating disorders also have substance abuse addictions, other stuff. So they transferred me to a place here in California. I was in Arizona. They transferred me back here to Santa Monica. So then I just moved into being back home with my dad again, and that was it was awkward, because I'd gained probably about 10 pounds. 10 to 12 pounds being away, which is not a gigantic amount of weight, but it was enough for me to just be stabilized again.
So was that from your lowest weight, or was that from like?
Oh, it's from my lowest weight.
So
yeah.
you were like 122 at this time.
Yeah, right at 125, 130. Okay. But I remember like not actually being able to look into a mirror, and I never looked down. I never looked at my stomach. I never looked, and I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see what it was like.
It's crazy that you say that. Not to interrupt, but I remember you said that in the video too, and I was the exact same way when I was at my heaviest. Because people ask me like, "Do you remember what you look like?" And as far as like with clothes on, yeah, because I have pictures, but I don't remember what my body looks like, because I would literally I would take a shower. I wouldn't look in the mirror before I took the shower. I would take a shower. It was super foggy inside, right?
Yeah.
So then I'd just do this, like wipe the
Yep.
mirror down, look at my face, make sure nothing crazy is going on, and then I would put my clothes on. I would always bring my clothes into the shower with
Same.
me, change in the shower, and then.
Yeah.
And so, like, I completely, like, that's crazy how but it was just literally from the exact opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's crazy. That's exactly what I used to do. It was worse too because when I was actually in treatment and I knew I was actually going through the stages of that, and they wouldn't show me my weight. They wouldn't, for obvious reasons, but I would do the same thing where I'd bring all my clothes in and like do all that, and then that's what happened, and that's how afraid I was of changing. And it's not, and it's like now looking back on it, I didn't even change literally that much. My
10
body
pounds.
composition literally, like I filled people. I used to just get so irritated. People would just tell me, "Oh, you filled out," and it's like I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's not like when people would tell me you look healthy.
You just hear you
that
look
makes
fat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was like you look fat. And so the next few years after that, I eventually I had to be pulled out of college, and so I went back into college, and so I had to start taking classes again, and so that put a huge roadblock on me, getting out of school and getting my degree and everything, and eventually I was able to get back into the swing of things again, and so I'll never forget too, because I started riding my bike again, and that was something I had to manage a lot within myself, and I did my first bike race, and it was not even like a race. It was kind of just like a ride. It was for 4th of July. It starts in Scripps Ranch and kind of goes around. And it was 45 miles, and I was like, I passed by Broken Yoke. And if to anybody that's listening, Broken Yoke is like one of the most famous breakfast places in San Diego.
It's very good.
Yeah, and I remember watching, because I watched Man vs. Food like religiously. I was like, this is like the coolest show. A guy can literally just travel around and do food challenges. And he went to Broken Yoke. I'm like, I wonder if they still do that. So I walk in, and I'm like, oh, they do it. So I do the bike race, and I'm like, I was living still at home with my dad, and I told my cousins, I'm like, and they're like 6'4", 6'5", huge guys.
Yeah, big dudes.
Mid-20, 200 pounds, the ex-football players, and I'm like, guys, let's go try this food challenge the next day. And they're like, all right, whatever. So we walk in, and they set this breakfast platter in front of me, and it's 12-egg omelet, it's 2 1-pound biscuits, all smothered in chili cheese, and it's got like a side of like 2 pounds of potatoes.
Jeez.
And it varies from like place to place, but I would say it's probably around 7 pounds. And so they set this all in front of us, and they serve it on this pizza stone or pizza tray or whatever. And so they set it in front of us, and they're just like, go. So I demolished this thing in like 28 minutes or something like that. And everyone looks at me, and they're like, they probably have like 10% down, and they're already like, I can't do this anymore. And say they were stuffed. And I sit there, I'm like, dude, I just did a food challenge,
That's
man.
crazy.
And you weighed like 130 pounds?
I was probably like 135. Yeah, I was still creeping up. My weight was creeping up.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I was like, this is actually really cool. And the owner looks at me, and he's like, he has his phone. He's like, I can't believe this kid that's like half their size just ate this entire thing. And that's the coolest thing. So he offers me a job. And I worked there for a little while, which is hilarious.
That's funny.
My name's still up on the wall. And it was one of that to me was a pivotal point in my life, because I did this thing that I was deathly afraid and paranoid. Like 3 years ago, before that, I never would have dreamed I would have ever been able to do that.
You wouldn't even taken a bite of.
Yeah, and so
one of those
I
things.
did this, and I was like, wow, I'm okay. I'm totally okay, and that was actually kind of fun.
So was that your first experience with I can eat a lot of food, or the anorexic, and then and I just completed this food challenge and demolished everyone?
I knew I could eat a lot of food.
Well, because I wanted to bring this is something we've actually talked about years and years ago. I remember you told me about the water thing, but I remember you were with another friend of ours, Brian, and you were telling us about how you used to sit outside of was it Panda Express?
Pickup sticks.
And you used to eat
Yeah.
a bunch of vegetables.
So
right?
I used to go to the same pickup sticks, and I would order they have these boxes of just mixed vegetables, and I don't know why that the water chestnuts and mushrooms or whatever just tasted good to me. They'd have broccoli in it, but I would just sit there and I would eat this box of vegetables for probably about 2 hours after school, and that was my safe thing. Even if it was it could have been 100 calories each one, I felt good doing that, and I did that over the course. I would do that every single day for a good few months, and I just did it. So I knew I could eat pounds
Okay.
and pounds of
Because you
food.
just felt like
Yeah.
your
I
stomach
had already
kind
stretched it out enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I
the
sat.
water makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, when you combine both of them, you get like
Yeah.
huge,
Yeah.
huge stomach capacity. So I knew going into it that like I could probably do it, but then I did it, and I'm like, wow, it's not just a bunch of veggies, because when you take in different types of food, and
Yeah.
starches, and everything, you can
breads expand.
exactly,
And all,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like my wow, like that's insane. Like I just did what Man versus Food did,
Yeah,
you know.
that's super cool.
And
And
do you beat his time?
I did. I beat it like by like I think it was like 6 minutes or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
so a small margin.
Yeah, and it's not that much.
Yeah.
But no, you know, Adam Richman is actually like he's more of like a personality. He's not like a
Yeah.
quote unquote
Yeah.
competitive eater. So
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, I just did what he did. That's super cool. So that was my first ever one. And
Did you like start your YouTube channel that you have now? Did you film that?
I filmed it on the channel I actually did with most of my vlogs and stuff, where
Okay.
I was posting a few years before. And then a few months after that, when I moved out of my dad's house and got into college again, I started the official Erik the Electric channel. And it actually was a fitness channel. It's called Erik Fitness. And so I was just like,
Play
that
on
actually
words.
doesn't sound like that cool. So I was just like, let's just do Erik the Electric. So, but then I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna try another one. And then my second one was actually the worst decision. It's actually probably the hardest food challenge
I
in
wanted
America.
to ask you.
I went from going like feeling like super cool, I could take on anything, and then it's called the Big Fat Fatty. It's actually on Jay Leno. It's a 13.5-pound sandwich, and what they do is they get this, yeah, it's like a 3-foot bun, and they load it with I think it's got 5 pounds of pastrami, chicken fingers, mozzarella sticks, fried eggs, jalapeno poppers. They basically put everything they possibly can on the sandwich, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, no problem. I go in and I just get obliterated.
Oh man.
It was one of like the worst mistakes ever. I probably ate like 70% of it, and then I was like,
Still a
and then I was just sitting there, just like, man, this is terrible. Like, I don't know why I do this. And then I'm like, okay, I'm hungry the next day. Let's, like, I'm gonna go take the loss and then go back next week. And then I did one in near the airport. It's a place called Shakespeare's, and it's like 2 pounds of fried cod, and so it was like a fish and chips challenge, and one of my favorite things in the world is fish and chips.
Oh.
And so I did that, and that was my third one, and then it just kept, like, I did sushi after that, and I just but I was able to kind of teach myself what I needed to do to be able to like manage a like a quote unquote healthy, balanced lifestyle. Like, that's not healthy and balanced, but doing that once a week or once every few weeks is not going to, make you, get health problems or anything. But I was doing bike races, I was cycling a lot, and I was weight training, and I powerlift too, so it kind of carried over into the weight room, and I was getting stronger, and that motivated me even more to keep going with that. So
Have you gone back to that Jay Leno sandwich?
I tried it again in the summer of 2015 with one of my good friends, Molly Schuyler, who's she's number one in the world, female
Oh, wow.
competitive eater. She ate this thing in 14 minutes, I believe. Literally flips the sandwich on the table, just folds the bread, stuffs the bread in her mouth, I'm just like, whatever. So I did it with her, and I had a handful of it, and unfortunately the gag reflex started, and I actually
No.
I
So all
lost
you
it.
had was
I had like a few ounces of it left.
Oh, dang it.
And so if I go back for number 3, I'm going back and I'm
you
defeating
have
the
to.
sandwich.
Oh
You
my
have
gosh.
to.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like to, but unfortunately, it's like it's probably.
Well, I'm sure it's not fun.
Oh, it's
Like,
not at
you
all.
know how it feels
once
now,
you get
twice.
above like the 12-pound threshold, like for any type of food, you start to get nausea.
Well, I was
Oh,
gonna.
man.
Yeah, I'm curious. I feel like the hardest part, especially, I mean, that sandwich seems to have a lot of different stuff going on, but if it's like one food for 15 pounds or whatever, I feel like you would just.
It's horrible.
You would get sick.
It's
you would get sick of the taste more than anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and so like that's the biggest thing. And when we talk about like this whole 10K challenge thing, and people talk about like being able to do
You're
that.
like, that's cute.
Well, yeah, but it's like you can't set yourself up, like people are like, dude, can you coach me on how to do a 10K? I'm like, I don't even respond. But like if I was, I'd be like, don't pick off like a bunch of sweet foods. You don't wake
Yeah.
up and go, I'm gonna have pancakes, then I'm gonna have French toast, then I'm gonna have a bowl of Skittle. It's like you need to know what you're, because if you put too much sugar in your body, that's automatically gonna make you you're gonna just crash straight out. So it's kind of just all about structuring how you you do things. And like most of my food challenges now, I try not to do all one sweet thing. It's got to have like a contrast of savory and sweet, and so you don't get bored.
And then no liquid calories.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
He always has a Diet Pepsi. You know?
caffeine free.
For the
No,
house.
I just kind of, that's my little joke, but I mean, I
Okay.
just did a Reese's challenge, and I got like Dairy Queen Blizzards, and
Okay.
you have to throw in some Reese's Blizzards in there.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but no, that's just kind of a joke I have, because like, everyone, whenever I was watching, I started watching the 10K challenges when they started coming out in like 2014, right around the time, we first met and everything. And people would literally have like, maybe like a thousand or so calories of food, and all the rest was just like shakes. I'm like, dude, why are people doing this, man? Like,
Yeah.
do you not like eating food? You know?
If you're gonna make yourself eat that many calories, like why not?
Yeah.
Make it fun?
I think it's funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
think it's
I started with I wanted to do the 10K, and that ended up being a 15,000 calorie challenge. And
Whoops.
Then,
Oh, darn.
and so I was just like, a month later, I'm like, you know what? I want to try doing a 20K. That turned out to be a 25K challenge. And then I did the 30K after that. And then I remember when we first met, I'd filmed like I did it based on like hours. So I did the 48,000 calorie,
I
and
remember
48
that.
hour challenge.
Yeah.
And that was like, I was talking to Matt Does Fitness, one of our friends, and he's like, Eric, you need to make, like, in this, whole British thing, he's like, you need to do this with your thumbnails. And I'm so thankful to him, because like, he told me like, dude, what you're doing is insane. Like, that is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, you need to like put it on YouTube.
I did notice a change in your thumbnails.
Yeah,
like,
they got-
like scrolling down. I'm like, oh, that's when the swirl
They
started.
got
Oh, that's-
absolutely horrible to like less horrible and like still horrible.
Well, it's interesting because I wanted to ask you, and it kind of goes to what you were saying. You started your channel as like a fitness
Mhm.
and like biking
Mhm.
and powerlifting mainly. Those are your kind of two
Right.
things that you like to do, right? Powerlifting and biking or cycling.
Mhm.
And then you were kind of just doing the food challenges
Mhm.
as like fun.
Mhm.
Obviously, at some point, it's kind of the food challenge have kind of taken over, right?
Yeah. So if you look at any of my videos from back then, it's like I started doing vlogs,
Mhm.
and so I would do vlogs for a few days out of the week. Then I do a food challenge, and then I started noticing that YouTube was it's like my main passion too. I put so much
Yeah, you
time
do.
into YouTube, as you do as well, and you notice that like your views are they're determinant of what people want to see from you.
Yeah.
And so it was like almost like a someone was just like taking a sledgehammer to me every single time I would post like a vlog where I put so much just heart into, and I wanted
And
like
you're so excited. You want
Yeah.
people to. You're like, there's cool stuff happening.
there's
and
more
like,
to my life,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and so it would be like I get 10,000 views on a vlog, and then I'd post like a huge like McDonald's epic food challenge, and it'd get like 100,000. I'm like, man, this kind of just, it hurts. It really does. And so I made the decision about a little over a year ago, last October, and I just wanted to test the water, and I wanted to see what it would be like if I just did food challenges, once a week, once every few weeks on my channel. And I eventually that caught on, and so that's what I do mainly now. And so I started a second channel, and so I just post everything there, but
and a third channel.
and a third channel too with my girlfriend. We have the Electrics, but shameless plug right there. But no, so it was kind of with YouTube, and this all too well. It's like you want to be able to do more, but it feels like you get pigeonholed into doing the same thing, and it's like that's what people know you for. That's what you are. Stay with that. Don't deviate from that. But the moment you do deviate from that, you're going to get a
You feel
lot
like-
of opinions.
You feel like you're the kid that like gets slapped with the ruler.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, stay where you're supposed to
Exactly.
stay.
Stay in your lane,
And
boy.
I mean, I completely like relate to that
Mhm.
because obviously I lost a lot of weight. My channel is mainly about weight loss,
Mhm.
and it's weird because like I feel like whenever I talk about it, it's me complaining, but I'm not trying to complain because I do appreciate everything that
Mhm.
I've gotten from it. But at the same time, it's like I want to be able to share more than just weight loss
Right.
stuff. So I did the same exact thing. Literally made a second channel, and then so I really enjoy just being able. I can put whatever,
whatever you
whatever I want, and I don't even think about it really. You
Yeah.
know. And then with this podcast, it's like that. It's like that, but like on steroids, because
Right.
I feel I'm able to do it with my brother,
Mhm.
and we from the start we set up the podcast being like, this is not a weight loss podcast.
Uh-huh.
That will be part of it because obviously it's a big part of my life, and I have a lot of friends that have dealt with it,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm an expert, in quotes on it, but we can talk about anything here,
Right.
and it's like it's such a freeing feeling, But at the same time, like I still enjoy making the weight loss stuff, so I don't feel like I need to churn them out all the time. It's like I can work on one and like feel really proud of it and then put it up. you
Yeah,
know?
and if it's like one thing that it makes like, because I notice a lot of similarities in the both, like just the way that we are, you're like, I should say we're very, harsh on yourself. So like when you say that you hear yourself complaining, it's like when I watch one of your videos, I see you spreading knowledge, because people, especially in this day and age, and my goal in life, is to be able to share my message with as many people as possible. And especially when now kids aren't tuning into, well, I'd hope that they're not tuning into mainstream media and fitness magazines. They're watching influencers. They're watching people with a message and with an actual story that aren't out there to sell them products that don't work. People want to know, what other people have been through so that they can get through their own issues. And I feel like that's extremely powerful. That's something that I'll continue to do until the day that I die. And when I see people that are so passionate about like helping others, that's where to me, it doesn't matter about views. It doesn't matter about, any of that. As long as my message is out there in the world, that's all I care about.
And see, like that's exactly why I was so excited to have you on, because
Thanks, man.
like for you, your main videos, you get a lot of views, right? You get hundreds of thousands of views, and that I think is really cool because it's just you eating food, right? But that's a vessel for you to eventually, people might come to your second channel, people might come to this podcast and be like, oh, I like Erik. Oh my gosh, I didn't know all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it gives you, it's just like your little in. Right. And so it's fun for you, obviously, but you're able to use that as more than just, oh, I'm just making this fun video of me eating a lot of food. It's like, no, I'm doing that. And eventually I hope people will find the other avenues and the other things that I'm putting out there.
Yeah, because there's gonna come a point in time where like what I do now is not gonna be happening. I don't even know if it'll happen for the next 5 years. I mean, maybe I could do it until then, but like, it's sustainable right now, but like point is like long term it's not going to be sustainable. So at a certain point I'm going to need to sit down and figure out like how I can still have fun with this. Like ideally I'd love to do like because if you go out and do restaurant challenges, it's like I just got back from Texas with my girlfriend. We went and did 12 I think it was 12. It might have been 11, but I did like a charity run. I raised I think it was like two grand for Feeding America, and so I'd love to do that every single year and just go to different countries and do it. Like that's sustainable for me. And to be able to have like my own TV show would be super cool. Like in my own dream world, I'd love to do that. But it's doing this for the rest of my life is not going to happen. But unfortunately, like with YouTube, and this, like people want a specific thing, and they didn't want to see me go to restaurant to restaurant to restaurant. They wanted to see me go from McDonald's to Taco Bell to, to all that. And unfortunately, that's what gets views, and that's what drives a lot of traffic to YouTube channels and stuff. So, but no, I hope to one day be able to, have like some sort of like, that'd be super cool to have like a TV show where I'd be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. I would watch it.
I'd watch the Obese to Beast TV show too, but no, I would say that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if I wasn't having fun. And I would say like, because you're used to getting a lot of criticism too, as, I'm sure you are too. It's kind of something that,
it
people
just comes with the territory.
It does, and a lot of people they watch the videos that you watched of me. And, they watched the old videos and those videos I made in 2015, just kind of documenting everything that I went through. And they go, this guy is now a binge eater. He's gone from one extreme to the other. And I used to get so genuinely upset at those types of comments. Like I used to wake up and read those comments, and there's like those comments you get, they just ruin your day. You could get thousands of great comments, but that one where someone sits down and they spend an hour typing up this paragraph after paragraph, and it just completely wrecks your day. That was the comment that would always wreck my day. And I've kind of just let people just, because people can watch something, they can read something, and they'll interpret it however they want to interpret it. And that goes for all of my videos. And I would always just spend so much time going, you don't know what you're talking about. I went through this and this and this. But my whole spiel is, people that actually have like I've been in treatment with people that have binge eating disorders. I know what it's like to be around people like that. I've seen that firsthand, and those people are not happy. Those people want everything. They want everything possible to be able to get out of that type of mindset.
Yeah.
And so now more than ever, I could not be any happier with my life right now, and so
That's
is
so cool to hear, man.
yeah, and it's like because you've seen me go through.
That's what I was gonna
go through
say. Like
struggles too.
when the first time we met, I remember it was at this thing called the YouTube House, and as far as like when we actually hung out,
Yeah.
right? Because we hung out when we went to Chipotle, but
Uh-huh.
that was for like
Yeah.
a very short amount of
You're
time.
probably
But
like,
like
this guy's super weird.
when we were when we were at the YouTube House for the first time, it was like you were doing some weird stuff. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
like, and I knew I could tell that you weren't happy,
Mhm.
and like I remember you would like have an apple and cut it the thinnest
Mhm.
little, like literally like paper thin,
Yeah.
and then you put like the tiniest little bit of peanut butter. He'd eat an apple for like an hour.
Mhm.
I remember that, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember us like all having conversations about depression and like
Mhm.
what we were going through. And so I being a follower of yours, obviously I've seen in the past, I would say past year, you completely change, and like even the content you're putting out there, the way you are in videos, the way you are on Instagram, it shows that you are happy. It's not like you just saying I'm happy to appease people and try, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And like, I think part of it's the woman that's sitting
I met
right
my
there.
girlfriend who really supports, like, but you need to have people
Exactly.
in your life that do that. Like, you can want it for yourself and you can want to be happier, but you need to be able to surround yourself. I believe that I'm a firm believer in surrounding yourself with people that inspire and motivate you. That's why, I love hanging out with you and being able to talk about things like this with you. But people that genuinely want you to succeed. If you don't have that, I feel like you're really missing out on a lot of important stuff.
Well,
right
what's
there.
that saying, John? It's like, show me your, what was it, your 5
Yeah,
closest
show me your
friends?
5 friends and I'll show you your future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's exactly like that's what when you say that, that's
Mhm.
exactly what I
Mhm.
hear. Like if you're surrounding yourself with people that are, cynical and mad and upset at the world, then you're
Yeah.
going to be that person.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I feel like if you don't have that, it's almost like now where you're bombarded with all this different stuff. Like you open up your Instagram feed and it's like everyone's just kind of just portraying that they're happy and that they want to be successful, and that's all you're used to seeing, and you don't have like a good support system and foundation behind you. I don't think you like it's almost impossible now to get to a better place like that.
Absolutely. It's a saying that's been said a million times, but on Instagram, most people, I don't want to say everybody, but most people, you post your highlight reel.
Yeah,
You're not going
that's
to
what it
post
is.
like
Yeah.
when you're super mad at your girlfriend and you're arguing or whatever it might be, right? Like you post your highlight reel, so that's why I try and be as real, but I know that I'm not 100% real, because if I was, like, it's this balancing act for me. And like this is just me being real. It's like I always struggle with, I want to be real and like talk about when I've like really feeling depressed, because there's been times where I felt like that, but at the same time it's like I don't want to always be that person that's posting about that, because I want to be positive, and like it's almost like for a while I tried to force it. And I can say within the past like month, and especially like since starting the podcast, feeling like I have a purpose again, I really do just feel like that person. Like I haven't had a day where it's like hard for me to get out of bed. And like the thought of going to Target and picking up food is like the hardest thing in the world, And for a while that was almost becoming normal, and it was scary to me, because I felt like there's this person that I feel like I am and who I want to be, and for some reason it's like I just can't grasp it, you know? But then there'd be flashes of it where I'd feel great for a day.
Yeah.
And I can conquer the world, edit a video, make go to the gym twice, like just crush it. And then there'd be another day where it's like I don't want to leave my room.
Yeah.
And so I can say, like, just with having purpose and then surrounding myself, with this new office, being around people at the gym all the time, it's been immensely good for my mental health.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things too. Like I've always it's just like always so awesome to be around you. It's because like I remember the YouTube house too, and that was a big thing for me back then, because I was so used to being, because I deal with chronic fatigue. I have hypothyroidism. It's actually more now that I dig deeper, it's more of a genetic thing in my family, and so I'm used to just waking up and just feeling like crap, for lack of a better term. It's like, and I'd wake up, and I remember like a few of those days, like I'd wake up and just being around you, because you always have a smile on your face whenever you're around other people, and you're doing like you always, and like with our meetups and going to the LA Fit Expo, it's like you always are so excited and happy to share your story and be around other people. And I feel like that's, especially like I was just saying, now more than ever, it's something that I genuinely value with people.
Yeah.
Because if you're, you're out there and you're just like, like you're just like loathing and
Yeah.
like,
And negative.
yeah,
And
exactly.
Jean, there was what was it? You were talking about Gary Vee, right? He said like
Oh, Gary Vee's.
negativity will like for a short period of time it can get you somewhere.
Well, yeah.
Right? What was it?
It's just the idea of like, what is it?
Put him
It's
on the spot.
positivity always wins in the end.
Mm-hmm.
It may seem like the negative, the mean, the cruel are winning at halftime,
Mm-hmm.
but it always wins in the end. And we have very real examples of people and groups of people who were just mean, and they blew up. Their channels blew up. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone wanted to be around them, and they're nowhere now. They're not here anymore. And it's just the idea of like, it's attractive and flashy to be mean and angry and all that.
But who are you attracting?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who are you attracting? What are you attracting in your life? And then like it fizzles. It dies. It always dies. And like positivity, encouraging people, helping people, always wins in the long run. It's just a slower burn. Like it doesn't go as quick, but it's there and it's consistent.
Yeah,
and it
being
remains.
a YouTuber has made me realize that society thrives on wanting to bring out negativity. Especially you get this in every single avenue of like whether it's being an influencer or a YouTuber. But it's like, dude, I'm a guy that's literally just I mean, I try to put charisma and humor in my videos, but I sit at a table and I eat food. Like, I don't really understand how you're going to try to make me a villain or try to, like, you bring negative. But it's like you could do that within so many different other, aspects too, with like, weight loss. Like, there's, like, scandals about, weight loss influencers trying to sell, like, bogus products too. And, like,
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, it's like, but, like, there's, like, just different types of scenarios, but it's just like it's interesting too how YouTube has made me really just realize and value and cherish the people that I have in my life that actually that want to support me and want to be my friend, and so I'm forever grateful to be able to meet you guys and be able to do what I do, because I feel like I have the coolest job in the world.
Exactly, that's exactly what I say.
I'm so thankful to be able to do what I do. So. Yeah. I mean, it's been great.
It's really cool, man. So, I mean, I feel like we've kind of gone over everything. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
No, I mean, we pretty much, like, we went through everything. I think, like, a big thing I took away from this, like, we look at the Instagram profiles and the YouTube profiles of these people who have everything together and perfect. And, like, you have to be so careful about thinking that their life is the normal, right? Like, the perfect physique, the chiseled, the winning, the shows and all that. And it's like, you don't know, like, the reason why they're the extreme and the perfect and all that is probably because there's a lot of stuff going on up here. Like, there's a lot of, they're probably literally afraid of carbs. And so that's why they don't pick on this extra body weight. Or they probably are so afraid of not burning, 6,000 calories a day. So that's why they're at the gym twice. And so, like, I think it's so easy to glorify the end product and like not like think like that's why it's important to put it out there, put your life out there, or even as like a consumer, like someone who's watching these people, like don't just accept, oh no, they're fine, they're cool, they're good, they have to be because they won the bodybuilding show, they have to be because they look this way, like look, like there's something deeper, there's always something deeper, and like just be careful who you choose your role models to be, like.
And in the same vein, like, you can't look at the end goal and think you know how they got there. Because I'm sure there's tons of people that probably comment on your videos like, oh, I wish I could do what you do, like eat the amount of calories that you eat. But they don't know what you
I get that a lot too. It's like, I wish I had my metabolism and all this stuff. And it's like, that's why whenever I get messages daily from people that are like, I want to do food challenges, I want to be a competitive eater.
I wanted to ask you about that. Like, how does that feel?
I mean, it's cool, but like, I mean, I always say too, like, I'm a competitive eater, but I am not the best competitive eater. I will never be the best competitive eater. To be the best, like, you have Matt Stoney, you have Furious Pete, you have all these guys that do this insane, like, stuff that could destroy me in an eating contest if they wanted to. Like, I have fun doing what I do and with my journey.
Yeah.
That's all that matters to me. Like, I have fun. Like, I don't strive to be the number one best, because I will never be the number one best. But, when people contact me and they ask me to do that, I never, ever recommend people go eat 20,000 calories or do food challenges at all, because I don't know what that person's mindset is.
Exactly.
Because, you have a lot of people, especially in the fitness industry, that, they'll go out and they'll do these shows. They'll diet down for contests, and they'll go out and just binge on food and think they can, start doing 20,000 calorie challenges and all this stuff. And it's not a good mindset to be in. If people knew what my mindset is like and my diet is like 6 days out of the week, they would completely restructure wanting to do what I do, because it's not fun.
Are you okay to talk about it?
Oh yeah, for sure. No.
Because I'm very curious.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm sure that has to be a question that you get all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how are you not gaining a ton of weight by doing all these? Like,
yeah.
It has to be a question.
I do. Well, my cardio is very regimented. I usually do about an hour and a half, 2 hours of cardio, because I still ride.
So you ride a bike just on the streets.
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like that,
that's
right?
something I will do literally until the day that
That's
I die.
just a love of yours.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the biggest thing is, though, if I don't do that, I'm completely fine. It's not like a huge thing. But activity is something I will do every single day until the day that I die.
Yeah.
Because A, I love it, and B, I kind of have to.
Yeah.
But a huge thing with me, like when I started doing food challenges, I would feel like I needed to restrict myself, and it's natural to like the body's it's human nature to overfeed and then not want food.
Well, yeah, because you're just not even hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's something I had to kind of fine tune for myself over the next few years. But now I still follow IF. I don't do what I used to do. I used to fast for like 22, 23 hours, and then my 1 hour window was like
when you were eating with your family kind of thing.
Yeah, just tons of veggies and everything. But I have a very balanced lifestyle, but I have to keep a calorie deficit outside of my challenges.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's kind of fun though to be able to, like, when we did our tour, my girlfriend and I, when we just traveled around, it's so fun to just be able to just not care about, like, because I have times where I'm just like, whatever, I'm gonna gain weight, so I'm just gonna do it. And so I just kind of go around and do food challenges, and then I gained probably about 15 pounds from my last tour, and then I just came back and then just dieted down.
See,
so.
that to me is like the coolest thing, because could you imagine hearing what you just said right now, like back in 2011?
It would have scared me.
Right?
Completely, yeah.
Or you probably wouldn't have even believed that was you speaking.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's like the coolest thing. I think, like, for me, like you said, kind of what you learned is, for me, the biggest thing I learned from your journey, and like I would hope that people take away from this podcast, is like, never give up. And as cheesy as it sounds, but like, no matter how like down and out you might feel, or how like you might feel like there's no saving you, right?
Right.
That I am this person, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were like, I am someone that's anorexic and that's like all I'll ever be, you would never be where you are now.
Right. And also too, I would also add to that too, is you're constantly changing. Like you're never going to just stay the same person or have the same body. Because I remember we were having dinner, I think it was a few weeks ago, and I was talking about, how people were making comments about my weight gain from that tour. And it's like, I do food challenges for a living.
Yeah.
Do you want me? And you were like, you made a comment. You're like, yeah, it's kind of tough for me too, because whenever I do gain like a slight amount of weight, or I gain some weight, or if I even don't gain weight at all, people think I gain weight.
Or if it just my face is bloated.
Because
like,
it's like you have your YouTube channel is based on weight loss, and so for the rest of your like journey on YouTube or whatever it is, it's like that little. If you deviate a little bit, you have to deal with that.
You become like a villain.
Exactly. Like psychologically, you have to deal with that in people's comments towards you, and it's like, man, I could only imagine, because like if it were me and I had to deal with that on like a daily basis, if I was, changing, it would be so hard, But I think, the big takeaway with me at least is like, it's all how you internalize and deal with those types of things. Because I could look at those comments and be like, okay, he thinks I'm, a whale, or he thinks that I'm like obese again or whatever, and I'm fat, whatever it is. But am I literally going to let that person's opinion dictate how I live my life? No, not at all. And once I kind of made that decision, right now, I used to be, I'm sure you had your phases where all you do is look through comments and you post it. Now I post it, and my girlfriend has been like the biggest like help for me, because now when we live together, and it's like I post a video and I just go on with the rest of my day, as opposed to sitting at my computer. I'm just like,
Because
okay,
you have other things to take care
exactly.
of. Yeah, exactly.
I have a huge thing in my life that brings me joy and happiness,
Mhm.
and those are just words to me now.
Yeah.
And I still appreciate and value all the support that I get, because it's the coolest thing when I go on and I have the same person, the same time, every single video. They're like first, and I get people that send me PO box packages and people that genuinely support my channel, support me. I'll never I'll never be able to thank those types of people. But no, I would say it matters so much to just have those huge people in your life, or groups of people that bring you happiness. So, but no, that's I would say that I remember you saying that, and I was like, man, I could only imagine, just the moment I swayed or deviated from whatever path I'm in, if I gained a little bit of extra weight, and everyone would let me know about that, that would be just so heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, it's for me. I've just kind of I know that I'll never gain all of my weight back, so I'm not worried about that. And for me, if I do gain 5 or 10 pounds, like, I'm not worried about it, because I know that I know the steps, and so it used to bother me. Now it literally, like, I don't even think about it, but yeah, it's definitely, it all comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, awesome. I'm pretty stoked with how this went.
Yeah,
I
super
think
cool.
this was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I
it was
really,
really
really
cool.
enjoyed it. I think what's most exciting for me is I can see this helping a lot of people, and I think that for you would agree. That's why you came on.
Yeah.
And so it makes me really happy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
I
of
appreciate
course,
it. It was
man.
super fun.
So if anybody wants to find you on the YouTubes or anywhere, where
It
would
is
they
not
find you at?
youtube.com/electeric fitness. It's Erik the Electric on YouTube. Pretty much everything is Erik the Electric. You guys can look me up on Snapchat, but I just try not to look at Snapchat.
It's
super weird.
Eric with the K.
Yeah, Eric with the K.
Eric the Electrician.
Yeah.
It's coming
I will
soon.
not be an electrician anytime soon. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, dude.
So
Do you want me to do the outro since you did the intro, or what?
yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Outro in 3, 2, 1. Cut the clip.
I don't even know what to say.
Oh, you want me to do the outro?
Cool. Well, that was awesome. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I'm just excited because I really do think that there's going to be some really good nuggets in there, and hopefully it's something that, especially if you're dealing with anything that Eric's dealt with, listening to the podcast was able to help you. So.
Yep. If you want to find him, if you want to follow up with him, his everywhere is Erik the Electric. Erik the Electrician is coming soon. And thank you so much for listening to the Work for Change podcast. Until next time, peace.
Peace. See you next week.